Hi. Today's video is the first in a series on strategic life creation. And today we're going to answer, what do you need to do to encourage your autistic young adult to become a strategic life creator? This is step one. My inspiration came from a grandmother I touched base with this weekend who has a 15-year-old grandson. He's very computer savvy. He also seems to be socially inept and lacks personal hygiene. Particularly, he soils himself. So he's resigned that this is the way that it's going to always be for him, and has stopped trying or caring. That's her thought. So I just want to keep in mind that, what's our end goal here? What we're trying to do is encourage, inspire, support our young adults to practice the set of mental tools that help them manage their thoughts, emotions, and actions so that they can achieve goals set by them for them. That's our end goal here. And our role in this, because now that they're getting to be older, is we have to take the coach position where we encourage them, we warn them of certain things, that we think they ought to know about, because we want to manage the downside as well. And we are consulted by them. And the consulting role, I think, equals the coach role. These I borrowed from the British Monarchy, of an essay by Walter Bignot, I believe is his name, or Bignot, I'm not sure. And it's actually the roles of Her Majesty the Queen. She encourages, warns, and is consulted. She does not legislate behavior. I think it's important for us to keep in mind. But here's kind of the frustration, where do we begin with our autistic young adults? And we love them so much. We just love them down to their toes. So how do we figure out how to help them practice more adulting actions? I recommend doing a 3-step life audit with them. Now, this can be done over a period of time. It doesn't always you do not have to do this in one sitting, but it can be, depending on the level of cooperation that you're having with your young adult. I mean, we do love talking about ourselves, our wishes and our hopes and our dreams. And that's what, our lives are built on, those things. In fact, I'm just looking quickly at my pictures, because this morning my kids and I were helping our other son with his gardening, and my daughter was eating a fortune cookie from a restaurant, our favorite restaurant. And in the fortune cookie, it said, "Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become." And I just love that, because so shall you become as you dream. So here's what we're trying to do: is we're trying to inspire our autistic young adult with that vision of who they want to be in the future, by noticing first what they've already created, and then figuring out what they want next, and then what are the next steps. So doing this energy audit is comprised of looking at the energy, work, and love triad. That's what composes all of our lives, is energy, work, and love. So first, we start out in the energy domain, where we look at the finance, the food, health that's mental, and health that's physical. So let me just separate those out a little bit better. Food, come on, health, that's mental. Can we make that a separate category? Thank you. So those 4 categories, we want to interview our autistic young adult and say, tell me, what are, some of your financial, how much money do you want to make? How much do you want to be able to save? How much do you want to have invested? What have you done now? What have you done now in that area? In the food area, what do you like to eat? What are you able to cook? Do you know how to go to the grocery store? In the mental health area, have you practiced mindfulness? What are you learning about the way that, the observations that you have had of the way that your brain thinks? And physical, This would be the category where the challenges in Taro's, the challenges with her grandson lie is in the physical area. That's all of our hygiene practices. And there obviously is some kind of a sensory processing difference with her grandson where he just doesn't understand he just doesn't have the same interoception signals that we have, which means what's happening inside of our body. So it's hard for him to recognize when he does need to go to the bathroom, or there's something going on that is a thought block, maybe, or thought, I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing, so I'm going to keep doing it, whether I have to do that or not. So something's happening in that physical domain, that physical health domain, that needs to be solved. When you go to the work part, this is what's happening in their, what kind of home environment do they want? Do they want, what kind of a job do they have, or have they had? What area of their keeping is a catchphrase for keeping track of all the things that support a life we love, like computers and cars and clothing and cell phones. Then we look at the third category, which is love, which is what do they love to learn? What are they doing to grow and enjoy life more every day? This is actually where video gaming would fall, in music and YouTubing. And also the learning category would include reading, books, podcasts, anything where we choose the output, choose the input that we want in our lives. Relationships is pretty self-explanatory, and virtues are, what are those ways of being that are just most important to us? Because we really can narrow it down to those to the 5 core values that we have. And we do that inside of the Art of Adulting. So what we want to do is we want to ask them to do a life audit, and then ask them, what are you doing now? What have you already created? And then what could you be doing in each of those 5 areas, and get as specific as you can get in this, what could you be doing? Because that's where we start to build the next actions. And then what is one thing that you could do but are unsure about it, but if you could do it, it would be really great. So let's sort of figure out, tease out what is the one thing that turns them on. And then I suggest that that's the one that we pick to work on together with our autistic young adults. It may be that our concern are the social, the social difficulties, the social awkwardness. It may be that our choice is dealing with the hygiene. But the first thing we need to start with is what they are most interested in getting done. That's where we're going to get the leverage. That's where we're going to get their energy and their focus, because they are the ones that are going to execute the solution. We have to start with what matters most to them. So this is the first of a series, at least 5 videos that I'm going to put out, that is going to outline for us just exactly how do we approach this problem. And I know the next question is going to be, because it can almost always be, and I just forgot to write it down, but what, if we encounter resistance, which is likely what we're going to probably encounter, what is the way in? And that's a really good question, and it's very individual, and it requires a little creativity on our part. Because let me give you a great example, and you can watch this if you want on YouTube or wherever ABC streams their past episodes of The Good Doctor. I have only watched 1 episode. I'm sorry. I wish I had watched more, but I don't watch much TV. And the first episode is when the mentor doctor is being asked by the love interest, how do I find my way in to connect with the good doctor? And his words are, and I think they're just perfect, you'll have to find your own way in. And that's because, we never know what the opportunity, what the window is going to be. But I'll give you an example of one that worked really well for me this morning. We were, the kids and I were over at their brother's house, and on the way back from helping him out with the gardening, something came up about finances. I'm not sure what it was, and or where they were going to live is what it was. The two of them, at some point, what was that going to be like? How were they going to fund it? And I had no idea that was even on their minds. But that was a great opportunity for me to talk to them about, well, how are we going to put together your financial plan for the future? What are we going to do for your financial foundation? And we talked about some of the various supports that they're getting. And my son just said, well, I just don't want to be poor when I'm 40. And I suggested to him, I said, I know exactly how you're feeling, because I remember when I was facing, having to have enough money to eventually be able to do something that I really wanted to do as opposed to working for somebody else. It just seemed like an impossible goal. I said, but it can be done. So I understand that it seems overwhelming and unreachable for you. And what happened there, and then he said, yeah, Mom, I guess you're right. And then I talked about how, the next steps are clear, but there's more steps over the horizon that we can't define. But all we have to do is stay in, with the steps today that we know how to do. And that's why, even though this sounds like this whole life audit and figuring out what's the one next thing, doesn't seem like it's going to solve the problem of how do they become a strategic life creator. But if we can just notice what's on their minds and help them with that at the time, and really listen and reflect the emotion that we're hearing, then we make a connection with them that we can build on when we're trying to do collaborative problem solving together and trying to create collaborative, proactive solutions together. And that'll be the next topic of the second video tomorrow. So I look forward to doing that for you, and I can't wait to see you inside of the Art of Adulting at Facebook. And if you want to get a transcript of this video, please visit me at this address, and I will actually have a worksheet there for you that has all of this outlined so that you can do a 3-step life audit with your autistic young adult. My advice, do it yourself first, because it's a great exercise. If you can devote a half an hour, 30 minutes to doing this, you will not be sorry. And when you read, what we want to do is approach this whole strategic life creator process as from a different perspective. And I just want to read a quote from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I suggest, he says, that you shift the paradigm of your own involvement in this material from the role of learner to that of teacher. And here we are, the teacher coach role. Take an inside out approach and read it with the purpose in mind of sharing or discussing what you learn with someone else within 48 hours after you learn it. You will not only better remember what you read or heard, but your perspective will be expanded, your understanding deepened, and your motivation to apply the material increased. So well said. So let's do this strategic life creation process for ourselves first, and with keeping in mind that we're going to be the coach and we're going to help our autistic young adults do it as well. If this is helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you inside the Art of Adulting. Bye for now.